No, that's it.
Great. Thank you very much. So, yeah, pretty unanimous. And I think it's interesting the point you raised, Rosanna, of kind of, you know some that are actually different to this, but this is still the stereotype that pops in. And, so I'm curious, have any of you ever considered becoming a local councillor?
I have
No.
actually.
So Solomon has. Rosanna, you have?
I was a paper candidate once, as well.
Okay. And Millie and Georgina?
No.
No, I'm only 22, so I don't really know much about politics at this age, and I've been moving around, so I wouldn't really know where to even consider.
Okay. So the next bit we're gonna explore then, so for both of you, the ones that have considered it and the ones that haven't considered it, I guess, what are the barriers to becoming a councillor? So Rosanna, it sounds like you actually went forward and kind of engaged in the process, but Solomon, you haven't?
No.
Okay, so it's kind of a thought at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're really interested in is then, what stopped you? Why haven't you? Why are you not a councillor at the moment, Rosanna? What's happening with that? And for the others, what would stop you even kind of making that first step or stop you even considering it? I don't know who wants to go first.
I don't mind going first. So I think it's not necessarily clear how you would do that. Do you know what I mean? It's not kind of like, I wouldn't know where to start, for example, if I was, and you kind of feel like you're not necessarily the right fit. But I also know, a friend of a friend, is a councillor and was elected kind of last election, local councillor. And because of, obviously, I know you're not talking about political health, because who he represented, and there were a lot of people that don't necessarily agree with it. He literally had messages from his friend, some of his friends in the morning saying, how can you look at yourself in the mirror? You're disgusting. And loads of abuse from people he knew and people he didn't know. And I think a lot of people with political views are quite harsh on one side or the other, rather than kind of understanding that, everybody has different views and you need to essentially respect it. Not everyone's going to be the same. Everyone comes from different backgrounds, and therefore everyone's entitled. It's great that we have free speech. Everyone's entitled to have that without being essentially just abuse hurled at them. And I know a few people that have had that. So for me, it would just be why would I put myself through that? I'd rather not.
Yeah. So on the one hand, there's kind of just knowing where to start and having the information to get engaged. And then it sounds like there's the fear factor, I suppose, the fact that you're going to be held up, abused, threatened, potentially, all of that side of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I've had that even for having a discussion about views and things. And I'm obviously, again, not talking about, but I'm kind of not really harshly one way or another. I kind of have quite a blended view of things, and people were still how can you think that? How could you, go to this school? How could you do this? And I had a guy that sat next to me and this was just having an open discussion about things at the desk at work, was oh, how can you live with yourself? And I was like, wow, because of the school that I went to and all that kind of stuff. And it was it's tenfold, obviously, if not.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you. That's really useful to understand. And what about everyone else? Would you agree with some of that? Rosanna, nodding. Solomon, yeah?
I considered it, but there's been a few factors why I've never actually gone further and stood as a councillor. Mm-hmm. Number one, I think the area in which I live is predominantly white, so my race is a factor. in an area where there's a lot of people of a certain age who may not be very welcoming to a black man standing as a local councillor. And then number two, I don't really think I'm well known locally, despite the fact that I've lived here for 7 years. One of the other issues as well, I don't think that my views will be very much accommodated.
Okay.
And one of the other reservations I've heard is that I don't like my private life to be in the public domain.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, those are some of my reservations at the moment. I might be wrong, to be honest, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's really, it's just kind of understanding where people are coming from, and that's your reality, that's your perception. And I think obviously what the LGA want is then how we break down those barriers and get more representation. Rosanna, you're nodding along to some of that.
I feel like I have like quite strong opinions on this, so stop me and carry on. But like, I think so. For the easiest thing to say, which is a huge reason, is that I just don't have time. Like I work like basically 3 jobs. Like there's not time to be a counsellor, and I don't even understand the system of like it being voluntary, but there being stipends and things like that in terms of trying to fit it into like my finances, because it's not like I'm in that situation of being upper middle class and financially easy to like take a hit on my finances. So that's like the easiest thing to explain. But then I also think it's almost a shame that they're political councillors and that it can't just be representing your community. Obviously I understand why it's political, but you know, in my idealist vision, because I am a member of a political party, and I was quite involved in the wards that I used to live in before, which is very similar to this ward and in the same city. When I moved, I decided to like not get engaged again because I found it very disheartening, and lots of people are motivated to become councillors or whatever, not because they want to represent their community, but because they like how you hear about people going to the police because they want to abuse power and things like that. It's a little bit of that. I found people were quite ageist, and like it was really opaque and mystified almost purposefully, so that I couldn't like understand whether I would be capable of fitting it into my schedule or things like that. Or exactly what my responsibilities would be. Even when I asked counsellors, they didn't know how to explain it to me. They weren't great at explaining it to me, to be honest. And most of them were not in my situation. They were like mums or retired. So yeah, I found it quite unfriendly. And so I thought, well, and now I'm like a school governor and a brownie leader. And so I'm doing sort of non-political helping my community things, because I just find it much less stressful and much more like people actually want to help people.
Yeah. Thank you. Georgina.
I just think I'm probably too young. Like I don't really know the general age of which you could be a counsellor, but I don't think I'd really fit the book for it.
Okay. So there's a kind of perception that so what is it about being too young?
I just feel like people would probably think I'm too immature to make such big decisions for like such a big community.
Right.
I beg to differ on that. I mean, at the moment, we're encouraging a lot of young people to join local politics, and we've got a lot of young MPs at the moment. A lot of young graduates are very ambitious. They've started up companies and done lots of great things for this world. So you're never too young to join politics or to do anything you feel like you can make a big difference to other people's lives. So yeah, you can join at any age.
I think I just have lack of confidence in myself.
I totally understand, and I agree though, like, although Solomon is right, there's loads more young people involved